Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're anything like me, you've probably been scrolling through your feed lately and seen all these headlines screaming about a massive new stimulus package, specifically $2,000 checks that could be hitting bank accounts soon. I mean, who wouldn't stop in their tracks for that? In a world where bills keep piling up, groceries cost more than ever, and we're all just trying to make ends meet, the idea of the government stepping in with some direct financial relief sounds like a dream come true. But hold on, because today I'm here to break it all down for you with the facts. No hype, no fluff. There's a huge update on this front that's got everyone talking, and it's tied to something called the American Worker Rebate Act of 2025. If you've been wondering if this is legit, who might get the money, and how it could impact your wallet, you're in the right place. Let's dive right in and unpack this step by step, because trust me, the details matter, and I want to make sure you walk away feeling informed and empowered. So, let's start by setting the scene a bit, because to really understand this potential $2,000 stimulus check buzz, we have to go back and remember what got us here. You know, it's been a wild few years, economically speaking. We all lived through the pandemic era, when the government rolled out those 3 rounds of stimulus payments, the first one back in 2020 for up to $1,200 per adult, then $600 in the second round, and $1,400 in the third. Those checks were lifelines for so many families, helping cover rent, food, and even just keeping the lights on during lockdowns and job losses. But since then, things haven't exactly calmed down. Inflation has been stubborn, interest rates are high, and while the job market looks strong on paper, a lot of folks are still feeling the pinch from rising costs everywhere, from gas pumps to grocery stores. Enter the current administration and some key players in Congress who are looking at creative ways to put money back into Americans' pockets without just printing more cash and risking even more inflation. That's where this new proposal comes in. It's not your traditional stimulus funded by deficit spending, but rather something tied directly to revenue from tariffs on foreign imports. Yeah, tariffs. Those taxes on goods coming into the country from places like China or Europe. President Trump has been a big advocate for using tariffs to protect American jobs and industries. And now there's legislation on the table that would take the money raised from those tariffs and rebate it straight back to working Americans. It's like turning trade policy into a direct benefit for everyday people. And that's the huge update everyone's buzzing about. Now, the star of this show is the American Worker Rebate Act of 2025, introduced by Senator Josh Hawley from Missouri just last month on July 28th. And get this, it's got backing from President Trump himself, who floated the idea during his campaign and early in his second term. The bill's whole premise is simple yet powerful. Use the billions in revenue generated from new and existing tariffs imposed after January 20th, 2025, that's Inauguration Day, folks, to fund rebate checks for American workers and their families. Why tariffs? Well, the thinking is that by slapping duties on imported goods, we're not only encouraging companies to manufacture more here at home, creating jobs and boosting wages, but also generating extra cash for the treasury that can be redistributed. It's a win-win in theory. Protect domestic industries while giving taxpayers a slice of the pie. The bill spells out that these rebates would be delivered as refundable tax credits, meaning even if you don't owe taxes, you could still get the full amount as a check or direct deposit. And here's where the $2,000 figure comes into play. While the minimum guaranteed amount is $600 per adult and per dependent child, the actual payout could be much higher depending on how much tariff revenue rolls in. For a family of 4, say 2 adults and 2 kids, that minimum adds up to $2,400 right off the bat. But if tariffs bring in more than expected, which experts are projecting given the aggressive trade policies in place, the rebates could scale up significantly. Some analysts are even whispering that with robust enforcement, individual checks could hit $2,000 or more for many households, especially if revenues exceed baseline projections. It's not set in stone yet, but that's the exciting part. This isn't a fixed amount like past stimulus. It's dynamic, tied to real economic activity. But let's be real here. Nothing in Washington happens overnight, and this bill is still in the early stages. It's been introduced in the Senate and referred to the Finance Committee, where it'll likely face debates, amendments, and votes before potentially moving to the House and then to the President's desk. That said, with Republican control in Congress and the White House pushing for it, there's a decent shot it could pass by the end of the year or early 2026. If it does, the rebates would apply to the 2025 tax year, meaning you could see money as early as next spring when you file your returns, or even sooner if they opt for advance payments like they did with previous stimulus rounds. The IRS would handle distribution, just like before, using your most recent tax return to determine eligibility and amounts. Speaking of eligibility, this is where things get crucial, because not everyone will qualify, and I want to make sure you're clear on who might be in line for this windfall. The bill defines an eligible individual as basically any US resident who's not a non-resident alien, not a dependent on someone else's tax return, and not an estate or trust. That covers most working adults, whether you're single, married, or head of household. For families, it includes qualifying children. Think kids under 17 or up to 24 if they're full-time students, similar to the child tax credit rules. There's no strict income cap to completely disqualify you, but there is a phase-out to target the relief more toward middle and lower income folks. Specifically, the credit starts reducing by 5% for every dollar your adjusted gross income exceeds certain thresholds. $75,000 for singles, $112,500 for heads of household, and $150,000 for joint filers. So if you're a single earner making $80,000, your rebate would be reduced a bit, but you'd still get something. For higher earners, it tapers off completely around $87,000 for singles or $162,000 for couples without kids, but add children and those limits go up. The beauty of it being refundable means low-income folks who don't pay much in taxes aren't left out. They get the full rebate as a direct payment. One thing I love about this proposal is how it builds on lessons from past stimulus efforts. Remember how the first checks went out super fast via direct deposit if the IRS had your banking info from previous returns? Same deal here. If you filed taxes recently, you're golden. No need to apply separately. But if your situation's changed, like a new address or bank account, updating that with the IRS ASAP could be key. And for those who don't file taxes at all, like some seniors or low-income individuals, there might be a simple form to submit, just like before. The bill also allows the Secretary of the Treasury to use projections for tariff revenue to issue advance refunds, so we could see checks rolling out before the end of 2025 if things move quickly. Now, why $2,000 specifically in all the chatter? Well, that's partly from speculation and partly from scaling up the numbers. If tariff proceeds hit, say, $100 billion above expectations, which isn't out of the question with tariffs on everything from steel to electronics, and you divide that by the roughly 250 million eligible adults and kids, you're looking at an additional $400 per person on top of the $600 minimum. Do the math for a single parent with one child, and it could easily approach $2,000 total. For larger families, even more. Of course, exact figures will depend on actual collections, but the bill's designed to rebate all qualifying tariff proceeds, minus any administrative costs, directly back. It's a fresh approach compared to borrowing money for stimulus, which adds to the national debt. Instead, this uses trade enforcement to fund it, aligning with the administration's America First economic agenda. Diving deeper, let's talk about the economic backdrop, because this isn't happening in a vacuum. The US economy in 2025 is a mixed bag. Unemployment is low at around 4%, but wage growth hasn't kept pace with inflation, which is still hovering above 3%. Housing costs are through the roof in many areas, and consumer debt is at record highs. Tariffs, while protective, can sometimes raise prices on imported goods, so the rebate is meant to offset that for average Americans. Critics argue it could spark trade wars or hurt exporters, but proponents say it's about leveling the playing field after years of unfair trade practices. Think about it. Countries like China have been subsidizing their industries, dumping cheap products here, and undercutting US workers. By imposing duties, say 10, 25% on key sectors, we're not only bringing manufacturing back, but generating revenue that cycles right back to you. The bill specifies that only tariffs imposed after January 20th, 2025 count as qualifying proceeds, so it's focused on new policies under this administration. That could include expanded tariffs on electric vehicles, semiconductors, or even apparel. Early estimates from the Congressional Budget Office suggest this could bring in tens of billions extra, especially if trade tensions escalate. For context, pre-2025 tariffs already generate about $80 billion annually. Ramping them up could double that. If half goes to rebates after covering other costs, we're talking serious money per household. But what about states? While this is a federal initiative, some states are already stepping up with their own relief. For example, North Carolina just approved inflation relief checks of $200 for individuals earning under $65,000 or $400 for couples under $150,000. Minnesota's got a program sending out $725 monthly to low-income families through November 2025 as part of a pilot. And in California, there's ongoing talk of gas tax rebates. If the federal rebate passes, it could stack with these, giving even more breathing room. However, for Social Security recipients, veterans, or those on disability, the good news is you're likely eligible too, as long as you meet the basic criteria. The bill doesn't exclude benefit recipients. In fact, it mirrors the inclusive approach of past stimulus. One wrinkle: if you're behind on child support or owe federal debts, a portion might be offset, just like before. So if that's you, getting squared away now could maximize your payout. As we wrap our heads around this, it's worth considering the broader implications. This Rebate Act could signal a shift in how we handle economic relief, moving away from one-off bailouts to ongoing mechanisms tied to policy goals. Imagine if successful, it becomes annual, with rebates fluctuating based on trade surpluses or deficits. That could incentivize better trade deals and domestic investment. On the flip side, if tariffs drive up costs too much without enough rebates, it might not sit well. But based on the bill's structure, with a guaranteed minimum, it's built to provide a safety net. For small business owners, this could mean more disposable income for customers, boosting local economies. Teachers, nurses, truck drivers, the working class this is aimed at, could use it for everything from debt payoff to vacations. And for retirees, who often live on fixed incomes, an extra $600 or more per person could cover medical bills or home repairs. Look, I know rumors fly fast online, and not everything pans out. There have been debunked claims about automatic $2,000 checks in August 2025, but that's not accurate. No official IRS announcement yet. What is real is this bill, gaining traction and potentially becoming law. If you're curious about your potential amount, plug in your family size and income into a simple calculator online, using the $600 base and estimating higher based on news reports. Stay tuned to reliable sources like the IRS website or congress.gov for updates. In the meantime, filing your 2024 taxes accurately ensures smooth delivery if this goes through. All right, folks, that's the deep dive on this huge stimulus update. Whether it's $600, $2,000, or somewhere in between, the possibility of direct relief is something to watch closely. It feels like a step toward putting working Americans first, and I'm optimistic about what it could mean. If you've got questions or your own thoughts on this, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear how this might affect you. And if you found this helpful, hit that like button, subscribe for more breakdowns on money matters that impact your life, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next big update. Thanks so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out. 2. Web pages.